Yeah, so I believe that we are all okay and well and kicking. Today's class is going to be a very interesting class because I want us to dive into the aspect of the theory part of business data analytics, which as at the end of the day, you'll find that, yes, for your case, it is a theory, but also in various scenarios, I'll also kind of be looking at it on a practical perspective, so that you guys should be able to understand everything pertaining data analytics. So you'll find that ideally what happened, as I've always said, that business data analytics is a course on its own, and being a course on its own, you'll find that it has a very wide scope, very wide scope. So basically what CASNEB did, they picked up to 15, a maximum of 20% of all the whole BDA entails. And you'll find that out of the 15 to 20% what CASNEB picked, you realize that part of it is basically theoretical part. And you'll find that this theory, as much as they have taken it as a theory, that is for the purpose of CASNEB, you'll find that there's a practical part of this theory. So before anything else, you'll find that it will be important basically for us also to be able to understand the theory part for the purpose of the paper. But remember, the theory that you're going to look at also, it is widely practical whenever you're talking of a BDA as a course on its own. So I'm saying that today is going to be very interesting class because we will be looking at things probably you've never had in finance, and probably things that will sound to be very new on your end. You know, like when you're talking of application of data analytics, whenever you're talking of financial management, at least majority of us, you're familiar with financial management. When you are talking of the concept of basically part of what you did, a pivot table. I know even if you hadn't worked out Excel, but at least you had an idea of what pivot table is. But today's session, we find that it is purely new, and I know majority of the terms that we'll be using, basically it will also be very new to majority of us, if not all. So in this case, introduction to business data analytics, introduction to business data analytics. Remember, today we say that we'll be looking at the theory part, introduction to business data analytics. Now we'll be digging deeper into this for the purpose of us to understand. At this point, whenever I want to look at business data analytics, I want you guys to take it in a very practical scenario. We'll be using various cases, right? We'll be using various cases. Maybe you need to make a decision, right? You need to make a decision on basically you want to purchase a car, or let me not use a car. Maybe you want to purchase a very nice shoes, right? You want to purchase a very nice shoes. I want to bring it down to a way that you can relate it with it clearly. Today you've decided to purchase a new shoes. Makori, what would be the process before you purchase these shoes? Decision is for you to purchase the shoes.
Before
Before
purchasing the shoes,
mm-hmm.
I'll first start by doing market research. Know the market prices, the prevailing market prices,
Mm-hmm.
and compare it with my budget.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll go for the best that fits my budget.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Market is research, budget, quality. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is Makori's angle. Diana Kebia. Good afternoon. Diana, you can always unmute and mute where you're not talking. Cynthia.
Yes, what do you?
Before you decide to go to Best Lady and look for that, are you a fan of Afro Kinky? You know Afro Kinky?
Not really.
You don't know Afro Kinky?
No, I just go for shoes that are closed and comfortable, and that's it.
I'm asking Afro Kinky. I'm not talking of shoes.
No, I don't know.
You don't know Afro Kinky?
No.
These are one Mutanga Afro what? Or maybe you want to put are you a fan of braids?
Yes.
So maybe you want to purchase braids from Best Lady.
Mhm.
Before you purchase, what are you going to consider? Before you purchase, I want that process.
Okay. Before I purchase the braids, first I need to know the style that I'm going to have for my hair, and then the type of braids I want. Is it going to be Pamoja or, just the brand? Yes, the brand. Yeah. And the price also. Yeah.
Right. We're looking at it. I want to relate it very, very well with us. Maybe at this point, Dan, you're a fan of, do you love football?
Yes.
You're a fan of which team?
Arsenal.
Just say. You're a fan of which team, Dan?
Arsenal.
Okay. Wanasema ndovu ilianguka kutoka juu ya miti.
Bado tu iko hapo, haiko
Unagonga
mbali.
na kelele mingi sana. Watu wa Arsenal. Understandable. Why did you decide to support Arsenal?
Obviously. Kitu ya kwanza ilikuwa tu ni hao wachezaji walikuwa hapo. Obviously the other thing was Henry, the influence of player like Henry Vieira and the players that were present.
Or are these probably maybe other reason why you support Arsenal apart from players?
Obviously the coach, the playing style.
Playing style.
Yes. Those are the trophies. Takama ni kidogo.
Trophies, Premier League mulipata mwisho when? How many decades ago? How many decades ago?
Because season mpya. Kila mtu.
How many decades ago ndo mulipata trophy? Yeah, I love Arsenal fans, which is okay. So basically, guys, I was asking all these questions basically to bring in the world of data analytics. You'll find that first thing first, whatever that you're doing here, before I make a certain decision, of course, is that part of collecting this data, where we talked of market research. In this case, remember there are data that you're collecting. Whenever I'm talking about, I need to look at my budget. Basically, we are analyzing what I have and if I can afford. We're talking about quality. Basically, this is the data that you're collecting. At this point, Cynthia, before she purchases these braids, basically should consider the style. Should consider maybe the brand that I want to purchase. You'll be considering the aspect of the pricing. Remember, like at this point, all these items that you normally tend to do in our day-to-day activities, before we make certain decision, it will always involve data collection, either consciously or unconsciously. But as at the end of the day, you'll find that is going to involve data collection. Probably before this point, before Dan decides that I'm going to purchase, I'm going to support Arsenal. First of all, I need to do my analysis in terms of players. Do they match probably my style? And when you're talking about playing style, in this case, you find that yeah, these guys, I really love the way they normally tend to play tiki-taka. in this case, talk about aspect of maybe for us, I'm going to remove trophies, but just kidding. When you're talking of also maybe trophies, yeah, these are the trophies that basically we've earned and all that. You'll find that all these aspects basically in our day-to-day life, in our day-to-day activities, there's that aspect that we normally involve ourselves in before we make certain decisions. Basically, this is aspect of collection of data. And while I'm making that decision, I'm going to analyze this decision. And probably after my analysis is when I'm going to arrive at the best decision possible as per me. Remember this point, each and every person will make his or her own decision based probably on his or her own taste. So these are basically, day-to-day activities, you are looking at it as data collection, analyzing, and making decisions. Now, looking at it in this case, now we are talking of business, right? We are involving the concept of business. And the data that you're talking about here, it could be data in regarding, of course, the industry that I'm in. That basically will bring us to the taste, right? Or maybe to the type of industry that I'm engaged in. I'll be in probably education. This person will also be probably in aspect of maybe medicine. This person will be in the field of engineering. This person will be in the field of accounting. So as at the end of the day, you'll find that data collection also in business, it will always tend to vary. Ideally, it is not the same anywhere. You'll find that probably the strategy that maybe PwC has is so different from what Ernst & Young has. You see, yes, you're in the same industry now, but the strategies normally tend to vary. But you'll find that on the same industry, data that we will collect, it will be probably almost be the same. Only that the strategy will differ. So looking at it in this angle, when we'll be talking of basically data analytics, the same concept will also apply. But this time round, we are bringing the concept of internet into place. We are bringing the concept of information technology into place. Now we are bringing the aspect of partly statistics into place. We are also bringing the concept of artificial intelligence into place. We are bringing the concept of machine learning into place, because all these are the factors that basically will enable us to analyze data appropriately and also make decisions as the way we were seeing here. Majority of us, or rather all of us whom we've given a chance to basically give their ideas, this is what we'll be looking at. And you'll find that in all this, there's one very important item that you must always tend to have in mind. There's one most important element that you must always tend to have in mind. In this case, you'll find that data, actually, even before I go to that bit, this item that you're referring to as data. Suppose you are told to define what a data is. Don't take this data of the one that you normally tend to use to browse. Suppose you're told to define a data. Purity, what can you say data is? In your layman's perspective, we are saying that we are talking of data, leave alone the one that you're used to browse. Ideally, when you're asked to define data, what can you say data is? Purity, we are on you.
Yes, Malim. What I'll define data as is information that you collect, like raw information that you collect to assist you make a certain decision. Yes, as you said, consciously or unconsciously, yes.
Correct. It's all about aspect of course, information I'm going to collect, or rather information I'm having, which basically will enable us to, of course, make certain decisions. So you'll find that now we're having business, normal business there that we are used to. Business, of course, is always the exchange of goods and services. Now we're bringing in the concept of information that we are collecting. And what are we going to do with this information? Of course, you are going to do what? We are going to analyze this information. And the beauty part with data analytics normally comes in terms of analyzing now the data. You'll find that any other person can collect this data. what makes the difference now between you as an accountant who has a knowledge of business data analytics and the accountant who doesn't have the knowledge of data analytics is not only data, actually it's not data, but it is your analysis skill. Your analyzing skill basically is what basically will make you different from the rest. And that's why whenever we are talking of finance or accounting going to a whole different age, you'll find that it will always be about what will distinguish you from just any other accountant is your ability to analyze the data, because you realize that post-COVID, majority of the tasks actually are conducted online. Information share, talk about so many things are being conducted online. And anytime you are conducting anything, should it be communication, should it be transaction, should it be while you are chatting on that WhatsApp, all this is basically data that we are sharing. Now, what is your ability? How is your ability to analyze this information that you've collected and use the same information to make certain decisions? Of course, these decisions you're talking of, the one that will affect, of course, the company per se positively. So you can make a decision that will also have a negative impact to the business. So you'll find that where we are heading in the world of finance, it will not all be about you preparing the normal reports that you normally tend to prepare. It will not be about you just preparing your financial statements. In this case, you'll find that these things of preparing financial statements, all these items, they are going to be kind of prepared by the artificial intelligence concepts that you're coming up with. So it will be you. What is your ability to analyze this information that has been prepared, probably by the artificial intelligence that will be there? So all this is now what we'll be looking at it in terms of aspect of data analytics. And the beauty part of it, what I'll also want us to learn now, is aspect of managing. You might be having this information, but how good are you now in managing such? And remember, in this case, you're not doing it manually. We'll be having a collection of this data somewhere. So it will always be upon us to manage this data to fit the decision that we want to make. So at this point, you'll find that basically we'll be talking of items such as maybe crisps. We'll be talking of item. We'll be hearing Mwalimu talking about concepts to do with Azure. You'll hear Mwalimu talking about the concepts to do with Python. You'll hear Mwalimu talking about the concept to do with maybe aspect of so many new terms that probably you'll be kind of hearing Mwalimu will be saying. But for the purpose of, I have a lot that we can basically share when it comes to data analytics. But for now, allow us to see what you guys are tested. But of course, if we'll also be having time, I'll be going deeper, because you'll find that introduction to, or rather just introducing you guys to data analytics is a class that you can take almost up to maybe talk about 5 to 6 sessions, because it is so wide. But because in this case, first of all, we deal with what we have for the purpose of exams, I'll want you guys to allow me to share what will be expected now to understand, because whenever I'm always guiding data analytics, I always want to go deeper into that. But for the purpose of time and also you guys for exams, maybe I won't go deeper into that. So these are what you guys should always be expected to basically understand whenever you're talking of data analytics. So as much as it is shallow, but yes, it will assist us in one or the other. So it will be important for us basically to understand, first of all, the cross-industry standard process of data mining. Talk about, of course, for data analytics. In this case, main things that will be required to understand is data concept, talk about conceptual, logical, and physical data models. In this case, I normally tend to give an idea with a house, but anyway, we reach there is always very interesting. talk about stages in data life cycle. Basically, the whole process of you identifying the sources, like when you are talking about before I purchase, say, a certain item. Of course, we are talking about market research. So you'll find that this is where I need to identify where I'm going to get this information from. We'll be talking about the modeling data requirements, obtaining data, recording data, big data, and data analytics. Basically, we'll be talking of definition of big data, the 5 V's, which is very common in exams, types of data analytics that we'll be having. Though it is shallow, I just wish we could be having time. These things are always very, very, very interesting, by the way. They're always very, very interesting. Then we are having, of course, the aspect of tools for data analytics. Now you'll find for tools, I'd explain this concept why CASNEP decided to test this concept as a theory bit, but you'll find that whenever you're looking for this data analytics tools like data stage, talk about SSIS, all these items, they are items that are being used practically, but because of one or two reasons, both colleges and also students, you'll find that they are always also very expensive at some point. So that's why you'll find that CASNEP just decided to give you guys as a theory bit, but ideally they're a bit of a practical. Whenever you're talking of data management, at this point, we normally tend to talk of basically talk of SQL. We have Oracle. We have cloud computing, that is AWS, Azure, and others. Like for MDarasa, we normally use SQL Postgrade. There's an upgrade of SQL. We normally term it as a Postgrade. That is SQL Postgrade. And AWS, probably if time will also allow, I'll go deeper into this and show you how we normally use this practically. For MDarasa, we use SQL and AWS. You'll find that Oracle, because Oracle ideally it is a whole expensive package, and that's why you'll find that not majority of the companies, they normally tend to use Oracle. Yes, there are those companies that normally use Oracle because of its stability. It's always very stable, and it has a lot of advantages. Talk about reporting visualization. In this case, ideally, we're going to look at it as much as you are supposed to understand the theory part of it, but we looked at basically the aspect of, we looked at it practically when you are preparing, of course, the data models, of course, using, we talked over the other concept of a pivot table and all the rest, which we looked at it to the point where we also prepared the dashboard. Power BI, yes, I know very well that you'll never be tested the practical part of it, but you'll allow Mwalimu. This is very interesting because this is where, of course, things are heading. We are going to do the practical part of Power BI. So for your case, it will be theoretical, but in our class, we'll just have to do it practically so that you should be able to understand it clearly. And I think I share this package with you guys, right? Because for us, you had already purchased this package. I think I'd share this package with you. I shared in the WhatsApp group, right?
Yes, Madam.
Yes, Cynthia, I shared this package, right? To install
Yes.
we haven't yet installed the package.
I installed it on my laptop.
Okay, great. Make sure that you've installed the Power. Have you tried to interact with it?
A little bit.
Okay, great. You'll find that is a very powerful tool. So for your exams, this is you're going to be tested the theory part of it. But as I've said, we're going to look at the practical part of it. You see how interesting it is. Yeah, then these concepts of data visualization in Excel, apart from the theory bit, we had also looked at the practical part of it. So I'm not going to repeat this bit. So in this case, you'll allow Mwalimu to basically start with the aspect of cross-industry standard process of data mining. That is CRISP. You'll allow Mwalimu to basically start with CRISP. And you guys, you have, of course, that doc. So I want us to, at this point, guys, I want you to change your perception as if you're accountants. I want you to have these perceptions as if now you're doing information technology. So it will be an advantage, yes, you're having the knowledge of finance, but also there is bit of you understanding you understanding some concepts basically in IT, which will affect us directly, of course, when it comes to finance. So while introducing this concept of CRISP, one important element that I'll want us to study is what we normally refer to as basically data modeling. Data modeling. This is very important. Data modeling. Remember, I'll be skipping majority of the part of introductory part of. I'll be skipping some various concepts of introductory part of data analytics, because I've told you, like when you're looking at BDA as a full course, only introduction is a class that should take us almost up to 6 sessions. Remember, these are 2 hours. That is roughly like 12 hours introduction part of it, which is always deeper and kind of it has a very wide scope. But for this case, for the purpose of us, maybe first of all we pass exams and also have knowledge, then all these other things basically we'll be looking at them as we continue. So looking at data modeling, we've agreed that first of all, before we make any decision which is related to our day-to-day activities, we say that we are going, of course, to collect all this data, and we analyze this data for us to make this decision. So data modeling, in a very layman's perspective, you'll find that at this point it's all about us basically. It's all about us arranging this data in a form of maybe we've said you're going to do your market research. I'm just going to use the same thing that you guys had mentioned. I'm going to do market research. Market research will involve various items. Market research basically will involve aspect of other than we having, of course, price of the item. We'll be looking at the brand of the item. We'll be looking at aspect to do with maybe aspect of maybe quality of the item. And other than that market research, now it would be upon us also to look at the budget that you're having before we purchase this item, which will also be looking at maybe alternatives that will be there, which will assist us to make that decision. And of course, from this alternative, before we make a decision, it will be the process of selecting the best alternative regarding what I'm having and what I can afford. Then finally, of course, after selecting the best alternative, I'm going now to make what? To make that decision. So looking at it in this layman's perspective, guys, these are what data modeling refers. At this point, you're having all the, you're having all the details probably that you need to use. So what you're going to do, I'm going to organize my data in a way that first thing first, on my market research, I need to identify, first of all, the brand that I need to buy. After I've identified the brand that I need to buy, we go and look at the quality of that brand. How is the quality of this brand that I need to purchase? After we looked at the quality, I'll come and now focus on the price. Am I able to purchase this item, or am I not able to purchase this item? Then in this case, we'll also come and now look at our pocket. Do we have enough to purchase this item? You see, what you're doing here, my good students, is that based on what we're having, we are trying to basically organize my data. I'm trying to organize the information I'm having so that as of the end of the day, I should be able to make certain decisions. The same concept will also apply when you're talking of the data modeling. In this case, in the world of information technology, the same thing that you're doing here, the same concept will also apply in this concept of data modeling. So data modeling, briefly, in this case, maybe just a brief note that you can mention. Of course, you're having it, but I want you to put it down. We are talking of data modeling is the process of creating data model. Data modeling, we are saying, is the process of creating a data model for the data to be stored in a database. Data modeling, we are saying, is a process of basically creating a data model for the data to be stored in a database, for the data to be stored in a database, for the data to be stored in a database. Then basically another dash, that is just introductory bit. Another dash, you can also notice, say that it can also be defined as a model. It can also be described as a model. It can also be described as a model that organizes data description. It can also be described as a model that organizes data description, data semantics, and consistency constraints of data, I repeat again that you're saying that it can also be defined as an abstract model that organizes data description, data semantics, and consistency constraints of data, I So basically, that is what we are referring to as a data model. You'll find that the whole bit we can argue it in so many cases. Like the best way that I just want you guys to basically understand, either using your own words or using volume words, for you to be able to understand all this bit. So, for example, like yeah, let us take an architect, right? We're having an architect here. This person wants to basically draw maybe a site, or rather a building that should be constructed later on. So what this person will of course do, I'll be having if at all we are talking of the new models of the house, basically we don't have the normal roof that you normally consider. So you'll find that I'll be having this bit. Can already say that basically at this point, this is basically the roof. And on this roof, maybe at this point, I'll be having maybe a cycle of stairs as you're coming down, right? Connecting basically the roof. Then on this case, probably I could be having another floor somewhere, which this floor maybe can be divided in a way like I'll be having, say, like various rooms on that. Then on this other area, maybe I'll be having an open area somewhere with maybe a balcony. Maybe I'll be having, say, a certain balcony somewhere. So all this, what you're doing, and maybe a ground, maybe in a certain area. So all this, what you're doing, this person, this architect, yeah, is looking at it in a point whereby I know very well these stairs will be connecting. It should just be a normal stairs, a rounded stairs, which should be connecting various rooms. And in that case, of course, I know maybe my living room will be somewhere there. My bedrooms will be somewhere there. I can either decide to come to the rooftop. I can either decide to go to the balcony. All these, what you're designing, right? In this case, I'm creating a model of how things should work. The same case when we are talking of it in terms of organizing our data, the whole bit. In this case, you're having your Excel, or rather you're having your machine. Maybe in this case, auditors, you say that this is client A, this is client B. Maybe under the folder of client A, maybe you're having draft reports. Before drafts, maybe you're having reconciliations. In that case, maybe you are talking of maybe aging reports, right? You're creating it, you're creating basically what the item that you can follow for you to, you can always be picking items based on how your model is, how you've arranged your data. So the same thing, as much as probably you're using some very new terms, but the whole concept is that the whole concept of data, the whole concept of data modeling. And the beauty part of it, we've been able to understand what basically what our data is. So now, my good students, also another key item that we should also be very interested to understand is the whole concept of the types of data modeling techniques. Now we are making another step, believing that all of us will be able to understand in our own way what a data model is. Let us take another step forward. What are the types of techniques that we normally tend to consider, more so when it comes to the aspect of information technology, whenever we are talking of the term data modeling? What are these techniques? So basically, this should take us to the techniques, and make sure, like, when you're not understanding, kindly make sure that you are raising that question. Don't allow Mwalimu to proceed and you've not understood whatever that we talked about. So we're talking of data modeling, talk about data modeling, talk about basically data modeling technique, data modeling technique, data modeling technique, data modeling technique, data modeling techniques, data modeling techniques. So at this point, what you should be able to understand, probably I know it might sound very new, but I want you always to relate it to what you normally tend to do. It's not hard. So in this case, the type of data techniques that we normally tend to talk about, number one, we normally tend to talk of what we normally refer to as the ER model. I'm going to explain this. ER model. ER model is simply what we normally talk of for entity relationship model. Entity relationship model. Entity relationship model. Term it as the ER model, entity relationship model. And of course, number two here, you can also talk about what we normally refer to as the UML model. UML model, simply the unified modeling language. Unified modeling language. Unified modeling language. Unified modeling language. Now, you'll find that when we are talking of data analytics, basically as a course, you'll find that the UML model, what we normally tend to do, we normally tend to go deep into the UML model and look at how we can always tend to define this language. Like, for example, let me share this. So we are not going to look at it. I just want to give you an overview of how it is. Basically, when I'm talking over, we can talk over basically R. I hope it will open. Let me just. I want to open my R tool is opening. You'll find that the language that we normally tend to communicate, like this is basically R. R tool is also a tool that will always tend to assist us whenever we are dealing with data modeling. Same case with I don't know how many of us are very good in command. How many of us have used command prompt? The normal command prompt, the normal command prompt for in our machine. Of course, all our machine has command prompt. Elizabeth, have you ever tried to use command in your machine?
No.
Ignatius, have you ever tried to use command prompt in your machine?
I've not tried.
Jackie?
No.
Kwani nyinyi machine ikiona shida, how do you normally run the test? How do you diagnose your machine? Ama tunapelekanga kwa fundi? Lisa?
Normally I use Control Shift and then Escape, and then I close the worksheets that maybe are disturbing me. Something, yeah, that's the one I use.
CMD is okay.
Yeah?
Let me show you what CMD is. So machine zetu zikiharibikanga si upeleka kwa fundi kuangalia. Ama just you want to run a certain diagnosis in your machine. Basically, let me share. This is a CMD in your machine, right? So maybe if I want to check if at all I'm having a disk issue, this is not IT. This is basically this is not IT per se. This is maybe should I use the normal way that you can always tend to check issue with your machine even before you run to maybe that fundi. Say like if I want to check my my machines, to say CHK, I want to check a certain disk. I think these are some of I don't know how I should put it, but when you are studying computer, I believe some of these things we are taught, but so basically you'll find that what I'm doing now, basically I want to check an issue with my machine. Hatukufanya hizi kwa computer packages. Makori?
Sijaiona hii mwalimu.
Cynthia?
Not really, mwalimu.
Purity? Hatukufanya hizi computer packages?
Yeah, I use it at work, but very kidogo to contact ICT, yes.
Contact ICT? Yeah, at least I'm having someone. Steve, hizi mkifanya computer packages, mkifanya nini?
I only use command prompt when I want to know the status of my laptop. Like, for example, the serial number.
Is okay. Basically, you'll find now, this is just an example that I'm giving you. Now when we are talking of these languages, so for our class, for basically whatever that you are studying now, we're going to look at it theoretical, but now when you find like when now you are being involved as a data, probably now you're being termed as maybe a data analyst, you'll find that the basic concepts is always command, because like even the R that I'm showing you there, R tool, of course, you must be having an idea. And this is basically introductory part of what we normally term as data analytics, the introductory part. We normally term it as introductory because it is always an assumption that guys did this at their basic computer studies. But yeah, maybe actually I won't go deep because I can see that maybe probably majority of us we've never used this bit. So what I'm checking now is basically if at all my disk has any error before maybe I'm trying something is not working clearly, or maybe my machine is quite slow. I need to kind of identify if at all I'll be having any issue in my machine. I need to run probably I need to run the status check in my files to make sure that basically they're okay. So CHK DSK, basically it is a normal language that you normally tend to use to run all this in our machine. But that is just a concept. Maybe I want to go deeper into that. But what Mwalimu is trying to basically communicate here is that for data analytics as it is, we'll be going deeper into such languages, and ideally not deeper per se, but just for the sake of our business operations. Then in that case, the same tools and the same language, you should be very good now in communicating. You see, like when you're talking about SQL, also currently we're having the SQL postgrade. So I must be having a knowledge in this language for me to communicate with my SQL. SQL is a database model. I must be having this knowledge for me to communicate with Azure, for example. I must be having this knowledge for us to communicate with our maybe data stage, you see? So I must be having this knowledge. It's not like you must be having some specific idea and language for you to communicate with. It's not like the way I'm going to go to my Word, I type whatever that I want to type. No, there are some certain language that you must be able to know for you to communicate with such. And that's why I was telling you guys, like introductory part of data analytics as it is a kind of a thing that will take more than 12 hours. Like if at all we are looking at data analytics as it is on. And that's why I think now you get the reason why probably CASNEB decided to give us the theory part. Now you can see why CASNEB decided to give us the theory part. So you'll find that these are the modeling techniques that basically we'll be looking at. So make sure that at least you should be able to understand the theory part of it, which again, later in future, if you get chance, you can always tend to look at it practically. So in this case, there are so many things actually that we need to basically understand. There are so many things that we, yes, please.
You've not come out so clearly, like how do we run the command? You talked about it, but I didn't get how you can run it. Like if I want to run it on my machine.
Let's allow that to be a class of another day.
Oh, it's right? A full class.
That's a full class. What I was showing you is how you can do it. Actually, it's not a, remember what I was telling you is an example of what, suppose you're to do data analytics, what will be engaged on. That is practically, this is basically for CASNEB bit, this is a theoretical part. And actually you find that once we mention this, I won't discuss them more into details for the purpose of what you guys need to know. What you'll always be asked is basically to give the data modeling techniques. So explanations are always more practical. Yeah.
That means it's not that I'm supposed to maybe press certain keys like the way I was talking of the other one earlier.
Not
like
really. That not really. Like whatever that you're doing, whatever that you're saying, that was shortcut.
Yeah.
That is using keyboard shortcuts where you normally tend, of course, maybe to see the task running, right? If you want to stop a certain task,
exactly. Yeah.
That's a whole different thing. That is not command.
Okay.
Yeah, that is not command. Okay. So like in this case, you'll find that but of course, if time will always tend to allow, we'll always go deeper into that. Like more so, the entity relationship model is always very wide to the point that in this point, you'll find that you can, these of course, if you are basically in marketing, and maybe if at all you want to integrate the concepts of marketing and business, you see the entity relationship model will always tend to assist us much. And also more so, assuming like you also maybe a CFO in a certain company, this model, the entity relationship model is always very key. Is always very, very, very key to basically assist you in identifying even areas of weaknesses in your company. But for the purpose of this class, you'll find that whatever that maybe if time will allow, after we are done with everything, we can always set time and go deeper into this bit. But for now, that is basically what we need to understand that bit. Of course, I'll always try to find time and go deeper into that. So in this case, after we've noted what data model techniques are, there's another concept that I'll also want us to bring into our attention, basically these are now what we normally refer to as basically these are techniques that we've studied. Maybe another important that another concept that maybe you might be asked, that is importance of data model, right? Importance of data modeling, importance of data model, importance of data model. That is basically what we can be asked. Importance of data model. But before we go to the importance, I want us also to talk of something known as basically on this case, it would be ideal that we also understand the data management system. That is simply what we normally refer to as DBMS, right? DBMS, data management. That is data management systems. Data management systems. Data management systems. It will also be very key for us to basically understand that, and also looking at the models that you must always tend to do, the models that you must always tend to have. So on that case, actually, I think there's a question here. Let me check where we were asked. What are we asked here? We were asked this last sitting paper. This last sitting paper. That is basically what we'll be looking at. Deeper look at this question. This is the last sitting question. Actually, it was a question number 1. It was a question number 1. I believe you guys have the past paper, right? These are what you're asked. Like data models evolve from conceptual. We are going to look at it. That is a quick high-level view of the business requirements, to logical, where the entities involved are expanded and include more detail. And this is where the concept of artificial intelligence will come in. And finally, the physical data model, which can be implemented with specific database provider like Oracle and SQL Server. So in this case, we are asked like which of the following choices basically is correct. That is, of course, the entire system, the entire statement is true. Only the statement of conceptual data model is true. Only the statement on logical data model is true. Only the statement of physical data model is true. So this is what I want us to basically, to do, what to answer while preparing this. As much as we are going to go deeper into that, like this question, majority of the students actually, they were just gazing. Fact be said, those who did, of course, these papers. But for our case, I want us to understand the concepts well and clear. Just a moment here. Sorry for that. So basically, this is what I want us to go deeper into that. Understand what, whenever you're talking of basically conceptual data model, what do we mean? Whenever we're talking of a logical data model, what do we mean? When you're talking about physical data model, basically, what will we be looking at? So this should take us to basically types of the data models that we're talking about, right? Types of data models, that is, of course, under of course, a data management system or a database management system, DBMS. So in this case, allow Mwalimu to have this structure. Allow Mwalimu to have this structure. I want you guys to understand each and every concept to the point that when you are out of this class, you can go and assist your friends. You can go and assist your friends. So database management system, we've all agreed and we've all seen what data is, right? At this point, I want us now to consider we have this data. As I've said that there's an area whereby we should be able, of course, to keep this data and make sure that they are kind of utilized clearly by either we can decide to use SQL, you can decide to use whichever system that, of course, will always suit the business and depending with the budget that they do have. So you'll find that traditionally, many of these items were being done physically. Ulikuwa unapata kampuni wako na storage ya files peke yake. Ile like tumeweka visa store, files zinajazwa pale all through. But things have been evolving. Things have been evolving. And on this basically situation, these ideally, we normally refer to them as types of data models. At times, you can also refer to them as what? Database management systems, DBMS, right? So in this case, allow me to have a structure first, which will enable us to understand what Mwalimu want to talk about. In this case, we'll be talking about aspect of processing the models, process models. I'll be explaining each and every item. Process models. We'll also be talking about data requirements. Data requirements. All these basically, these two, I'll be explaining them into detail. These two, they are under the aspect of logical data modeling. Logical data modeling. Logical data modeling. Logical data modeling. Then on the same case, of course, I'll be talking, of course, of the aspect of that is logical data modeling. We'll also be talking of aspect of technical requirements. Technical requirements, and performance requirements. Okay, technical requirement and performance requirement, and performance requirements here in performance requirements. Just want us to break them down like this. On this case, you will find that we will be talking of aspect of physical data modeling. 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 Okay, I'll be having physical data modeling. Then on this other case now, we'll be talking of basically business data. Business data. We'll be having our business data at this point, business data. Now, this is the relationship. You'll find that the two, process data and data requirements, will give us what you're referring to as basically the logical data modeling. And you'll find that if at all you are to look at it in this relationship, it is from the logical data modeling, it is from this logical data model that will lead us to physical data modeling. That will lead us to physical data modeling. Okay. That is to say, I can't perform the physical if in this case, basically we don't have the logical. And from this stage, of course, we'll also be looking at what we have referred to as physical data model. This is now what we're referring to as a physical data model. After I have identified that we do have the technical requirements and performance requirements, right? That should take us back to our business data. And business data now, it will be an area of making now certain decisions. So basically, this case will be expected to cover what we're referring to as now we need to basically create or update our data. To create or update, create / update our data, create / update our data. And of course, that is of course what? From our physical data model. So that as at the end of the day, whatever results that I'll be having here, now this is now the data that I'll be communicating. This is now the data that I'll be communicating. So you'll find that this is basically a process that you must always tend to be able to understand, whereby you are saying that this information that you're having, and we have this information basically in raw. So we'll be talking of whatever that I need to use or whatever that we need to consider before making various decisions. So there'll be that aspect of the process models and data requirements, technical requirements and performance requirements, which ideally this one will be performed, me and you are analyzing things. And finally, when we'll be dealing with business data. So worry not about this structure, because I'm going to explain each and every item here by looking now at the following types of data models, which number one, we normally refer to this as a conceptual data model. Conceptual data model, conceptual from the word concept, conceptual data model, conceptual data model. We'll be talking of what we normally refer to as logical data model, logical data model. We'll be talking of physical data model, physical data model. So this is what I want us to discuss, and basically will give us everything here, explaining each and every graph that I've given you here and how they relate with each other. So the chart below will be explained with the data that I'm having now below. The chart below, basically, I want us to explain that chart with what you're having here. And now we can go to that question and answer that question very, very, very confident, with a lot of confidence. So in this case, we start with, of course, conceptual data model. Conceptual data model. Conceptual data model. I want to explain it in a very simple manner. I won't go into detail, but I'll want to summarize it in a way that with a level of knowledge that you're having in information technology, you should be able to understand it very clearly. So starting with conceptual data model, my good students, starting with the conceptual data model, you're talking of from the layman perspective, yeah, you're talking of just basically developing the concept. So I'll ask myself basically, what should I do? In this case, probably I want like in 3 years' time or 2 years' time to come up with a certain system that will basically assist accountants to make their work easier, or to assist employers to reduce the number of accountants in the office. So what should I do? What system should I develop? What are the items that I should have in place? there's always the what question, right? The what question. I need probably to raise, maybe I need to go and pitch my idea to the governor of Nairobi about how probably we can use technology maybe to make sure that the city is clean. So what system should I have in place? What level of techniques should I require? What software should I come up with? You see, logic, the aspect of conceptual, the what concept, the what perspective, that is what you are looking at. So the conceptual data model, I want us to note it very briefly and say that this data model defines what the system contains. This data model defines what the system contains, what the system contains, what the system contains. This data model defines what the system contains. Full stop, continuation, you can also add and say that this model is typically created by business stakeholders and data architects. You're saying that this model is typically created by business stakeholders and data architects, and data architects, and data architects, and data architects. Full stop, continuation, you can also add and say that the purpose is to organize. The purpose is to organize, scope, and define business concepts and rules. The purpose is to organize. The purpose is to organize, scope, and define business concepts and rules. And define business concepts and rules. Defines business concepts and rules, and rules, and rules, and rules. So basically, at this point, the what, right? The what question, we are answering the what question, the what question. Basically, what should this contain? In this case, how should this basically be kind of worked out? So the what question. Now, in this case, logical data model. We are on the logical data model. So you'll find that partly conceptual and logical, they'll always tend to go hand in hand. Only that we've kind of divided them for the purpose of us understanding the concept clearly. But many times you'll find that the what and the how, they'll always tend to go hand in hand. So dividing it here, and that's what you can see here, like in our model, logical data modeling, we're having the aspect of the data requirements. Of course, that is what should I need? That is conceptual data. And now we're having the process models. How? At this point, I know very well that I'll require probably two guys who are very good in artificial intelligence, and another person is very good in machine learning. I'll also require probably a person who is also very good in finance in terms of making sure that this item is implemented well. Of course, in this case, I need to, I'm identifying what I'm going to present, of course, to the governor of Nairobi for maybe a system that will assist cleaning the city of Nairobi. Now, how are we going to do this? You see, I'm having the what, the aspect of conceptual. Now the question is, I've identified all these requirements. The question would be, how are we going to do this? How are we going now to implement? Because I know probably the governor will ask, yes, you're having the concept, but how are you going to implement it? Now, this will bring us to the concept of logical data model. Logical data model. So briefly, I'll also want us to mention something and say that this defines how the system should be implemented. This defines how the system should be implemented. This defines how the system should be implemented, regardless of the database management system, DBMS. Just have DBMS. We are saying that This defines how the system should be implemented. It defines how the system should be implemented, regardless of the DBMS, regardless of the DBMS, regardless of the DBMS, regardless of the DBMS. Full stop, continuation, you can add and say that this model is typically created. This model is typically created by data architects and business analysts. This model is typically created by data architects. This model is typically created by data architects and business analysts and business analysts and business analysts. Then also maybe you can also add in say full stop continuation. Full stop continuation. We can add and say that the purpose is to develop technical map. The purpose is to develop technical map. The purpose is to develop technical map of rules and data structures. 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 So that's why it will take us to the next concept, which now we are referring to as physical data model. Physical data model. So first of all, yes, please.
Repeat that last sentence. The purpose is to develop.
Purpose is to develop a technical map. The purpose is to develop technical map of rules and data structures. 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 So at this point, you'll find that before you go to the, of course, that is what will lead us to the logical, or rather to the physical data model. But there's one item that I wish us to underline under the logical data model, where we've said that the system should be implemented regardless of the database management system adopted. I want you guys to underline that word, regardless of the database management system that you have adopted. That is when you're talking for the logical data model, right? The how. Now, my good students, looking at the aspect of physical data model now, remember, first of all, we started with the concept, right? This is what probably I need to do. Then logical, we are looking at how we are going to do it, regardless of the budget, regardless of the situation that you're in, regardless, now we're looking at it in a layman's perspective, okay? So now looking at it on a physical data model is now the whole process of implementing it. From this case, we want to get the relationship. Here, we are looking at regardless of the database management system that we'll be having, regardless of the database management system that we will be having, right? So, physical data model, now we want to implement it. We need to decide which system are we going to use. For logical, we are looking at regardless, okay? Where we talk, of course, the technical requirement and performance requirements, what should be basically give birth to the data and technical requirements, which should give birth basically to this now what we're referring to physical data. Now, at this point, we're looking at now the performance, right? We want to look at, we had several aspects of management system that, yes, we're going to adopt. In my head, if I go to Governor Sakaja, this will be the budget. Maybe I've budgeted, like, you know, this system will cost like 15 million. This system will cost maybe roughly like 20 million. But now things are on the table and what we've been given maybe is 8 million. Remember, here we're looking at regardless of what we'll be having. I want to bring that idea very clearly. Here we're looking at what we will, regardless of what we'll be having. Regardless of the budget, I'm having 20, it can be 15, it can be 10. But now we are on specific. Now this is what we do have. How can we implement this with what we have? How will we implement this idea with the 8 million that you're having? So now this is a concept of what? Physical data model, which I want us to mention something on that and say that the data model describes how the system will be implemented. The data model describes how the system will be implemented, 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 using specific database management system, 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 using specific database management system. Another dash on that, full stop continuation, we can often say that this model is typically created. This model is typically created by database administrators and developers. This model is typically created by database administrators. We normally refer to them as a DBA. This model is typically created by DBA, that is database administrators, and developers, 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 and developers. Now, another dash you can also add and say, the purpose is actual implementation of the database. The purpose is actual implementation of the database. The purpose is actual implementation of the database. The purpose is actual implementation of the database, of the database, of the database, of the database. So that is basically what we should be able to understand whenever we normally tend to talk of what, whenever we normally tend to talk of. Ideally, remember, like when we're talking about specific, now we know very well that we've decided that, you know what, guys, we're going to use SQL, right, in our database management system. You know what, guys, we decide that I'm going to use probably, if it is a digital ocean, to store this data of ours or to manage this data of ours. We've decided that, you know what, we're going to use AWS and all these items. We've made that decision, specific items. So you'll find that I'm going to look at an administrator or a developer. I tell him, all right, you know what, I want this system to be developed using this specific database management system. So you'll find that there's always that process, and you'll find that it is from physical data modeling, where you're talking of now we are performing it, and talk of course, which will also, where you're talking of this, right, where I was explaining this, like the logical will lead to physical, right? Physical data model will lead now to creating whatever that we want to achieve. So it follows like this, the logical basically will lead to physical. Remember, logical, it also has a part of conceptual, right? So logical will lead to physical modeling. Physical data model now will lead to creating now what you need. And that's why we're talking of actual implementation here. So ideally explaining what we have here. Now, my good students, let us go back to that question. And I want you guys, with your interpretation, to give us a solution of this. Now, without gazing. This is what you're having. Look at this question. This is what you are tested. These are what you're asked. In this question, you're asked like data models evolve from conceptual, that is quick, high-level view of business requirement, to logical, right? where the entities involved are expanded and include more detail. And finally, the physical data model, which can be implemented with specific database provided like Oracle. So the examiner is asking us here, which of the following choices is correct? Number one, the entire statement is true. Part B, only the statement on conceptual data model is true. C, only the statement on logical data model is true. D, only statement of physical data model is true. So my good students, given such a statement, what choice will you select? Now that we've understood the process of conceptual, logical, and physical, which one do you think is correct?
A.
A. That is very correct. A is correct. You'll find that this process is exactly how data models normally tend to work. So the best choice here is A. The entire statement basically is true because it describes how this model normally tends to work. So you'll find that the entire statement basically in this context is true based on what Mwalimu has tried to explain here and relating it, like having it now in a wider perspective. So you'll find that in such a question, choice A was correct. The entire statement is true, given the fact that we've seen how it normally tends to operate. Now, in that case, remember, you're not now doing guesswork. You've understood the concept clearly. You've understood the concept clearly. So that is what we should be having. I don't know if you are understanding this concept. I don't know if we are understanding these concepts. Kindly make sure that you're getting this concept clearly. And if you're having a question, always ask. If you're having a question, always ask. I think there's also another question here. This is basically, we're going to look at this number 2. Later on, there's a question where we were asked, question 3. Question 3. If you understood what Mwalimu started by, of course, explaining, you can give Mwalimu this solution. According to cross-industry standard process for data mining, data modeling involves, number 1, obtaining data and information from different sources, processing and storing for future reference, fixing or removing correct, corrupted, incorrectly formatted data and information, collecting data and information about business requirements from stakeholders and end users, creating a visual representation of either a whole information system or parts of it to communicate connections between data points and structures. My good students, at this point, we've talked of what data model is. Assuming you are to answer this question, what will you give your solution as?
A.
Where we're talking of obtaining data information from different sources, processing and storing them for future reference, which is very correct. So you'll find that all these other items more so what ideally also kind was very close to data model was part D. This one was also very close. And in this case, later on, you'll find that under UML, and UML is that is of course part of what we refer to as part of data modeling techniques. Under UML, this will always work, creating visual representation of either a whole information system or parts of it to communicate connections between data points and structures. You'll find that this bit is what we normally look under the unified modeling language, which we mentioned earlier on. So the correct answer here would be part A would be the most suitable answer. If we weren't given part A, we could have gone and give part D. So obtaining data and information from different sources, processing and storing them for future reference. So you'll find that this is how, just from what we've just studied and looking at the question that was attested, ideally we can come up with solutions on what you are given, not by guessing, but by understanding what you are giving as solution, which is very, very good. And in that case, you'll find that this is how the questions are always being tested when it comes to the concept of the theory bit. Understanding the bit, understanding the concept, what is shared, and go and try to implement what you understand, that knowledge, in these choices of yours that you're given. So that is correct. Obtaining data and information from different sources, processing and storing for future reference. Yes.
What about the answer B?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that one is nearer to the definition which we said it is organizing the data.
Like remember
because this one is talking about, because organizing the data in my mind, you have already collected the data. You have the data. Then you are trying to organize the data right now. Yes. So I thought answer B could be correct because it's talking about fixing, removing. Yes.
Nice concept. And that's why I'll bring you to this second bit. What will processing involve? Is it not part of, before we process, of course, this data should be organized in a certain way, right? We should, in the aspect of processing, we're also fixing all these items, right? Because the whole idea, remember, the whole idea of model is for it to lead us, to making this decision of whatever that you want to do. So you'll find that if you give choice B, you'll be very limited. And in that case, you'll not have covered everything in relation to that. Because recall, like data model involves the whole bit. In this case, I'm having this architect here. He wants to build probably a house, right? So in this case, I'm going to, remember, like I must also be giving probably aspect of the costing and all that. I know very well that I've obtained information that certain material is very good and it will fit probably the kind of house that I need to make. So in this case, you'll also find that as at the end of the day, probably I'll also be required maybe to have a certain item based on the class of house that I want to build. I want to have this bit. This is a model that I'm creating, right? This is a model that I am creating. So just by looking at this simple illustration, is it involving only fixing and removing incorrect? It was Ignatius who was asking the question. Look at that, what Mwalimu is talking about, this architecture. Is it only aspect of fixing and removing incorrect? Aspect of maybe information? The whole of this process will basically involve, first of all, I'm going to obtain data, what I'm going to have on these areas, right? You should be having windows here and there. Like in this case, I'm collecting this information from whatever sources that I'm collecting. Then at this point, probably I know that I'm going to advise that, you know what, this is how it should be done. Aspect of giving that process of how these things should be done for it to be very stable, so that whenever probably, if at all, maybe I'm in an area where I'm prompt to quakes, this should be kind of designed in a certain way, right? We are processing all this bit. Now, storing it in this case, now I'm giving this plan. I'm giving this plan to the constructor. I'm giving this plan to the person who is going to do it, to do all these items. And now we're talking of the input of making that decision. And finally, of course, for future, remember this, I'm giving this person because he's going to build. It has not yet been done, but it is going to be built. Look at it in that process. So you'll find that this is, and as I mentioned earlier on, aspect of what Mwalimu referred to as aspect of the whole model. And I think I'd explained this one earlier on. So that's why we are saying here that choice A would be more appropriate in this concept, where the question is aspect of, you see, cross industry standard process for basically what you're referring to as data mining. And of course, data modeling involves what? Data modeling involves what? So it's not all about fixing. It's not about removing corrupted data, but it involves all the process. It involves all the process. Is that correct? Is that okay? Okay, it's okay. Basically what you're in summary, you're saying data collection, processing, and storage. Yeah. That is and more specific, you'll find that when you're talking of basically aspect of data mining. Recall data mining is always that practice of you analyzing the database in order basically to generate what? New information. You are analyzing this now what you normally refer to as data mining. Data mining is a whole process of you analyzing a specific concept, or you analyzing a specific large database of items to come up with a new information, So in the context of that data mining, you'll find that either way, all aspect, choice A will be more appropriate. And that's why I've said, if it was not choice A, if we couldn't be having choice A, we could have gone with choice D, because choice D is more of it, but in a context of the EML, in the context of aspect of what I was sharing with you just right now, the aspect of the UML, the Unified Modeling Language. So other than choice A, choice B was more closer. Choice D for dog, choice D was more closer in looking at what data modeling is. I believe that is okay now. So in this context, now we are talking of actually, in this case, also this part of we haven't looked at data mining, but I've mentioned data mining here. I've mentioned data mining here. Like read the statement below and answer basically the questions that we were asked here. Here we are told that data mining relates to turning raw data into useful information. Data mining using built-in algorithm should guarantee a result. So which of the following choices apply? Read the statement below and answer the questions that follows. Number one, data mining relates to, of course, turning raw data into useful information. And data mining using built-in algorithm should guarantee a result. So as I've said, just by the question that you asked here, where I mentioned that recall the whole process of data mining basically involves us analyzing large database in order to generate new information. That is what Mwalimu has mentioned, and that is what Mwalimu has given us. So in this context, even just by looking at it, we are asked data mining relates to turning raw data into useful information. Then part two, data mining using built-in algorithm should guarantee us a result. Like any other case, in this case, at times also, maybe if you're having a concept, you can relate it well in what you're doing. In life, the same case with the systems, right? Is it a kind of guaranteed that maybe like today, if you've invested in Safaricom, you are going to earn dividends as at the end of the year? I'm asking that question. Today, probably maybe Mary, you have invested in Safaricom. Is it guaranteed that as at the end of the year, you're going to earn the dividends? Are you guaranteed?
No, you're not guaranteed.
You're not guaranteed. And that is life. That is life. So also in the system, maybe today I've decided like maybe I want to develop a system. I'll just give you the practical actually situational story. You know, like for us, MDarasa, we started back in 2018, right? These are when MDarasa started. And by this time, basically, of course, this knowledge, I had it back in from 2016, only that the aspect of capital limitation and all the rest. But 2018, we launched Darasa as an e-learning platform. By then, trying to convince even my friends who are lecturers that, you know what, let us come together, you know, like the future is on e-learning. Guys who are like, Aringo, you are crazy. You can't do CPA and go do exams and pass. How will you teach financial reporting online? How will you teach maybe financial management online? This was back in 2018. Also going to a student like, you know what, you can come study with Darasa. This is a purely learning platform. You don't need to go to class. You can always go out from work to home, you study. You know, like guys who are very, very cold. Yani walikuwa wanatuona kama sisi ni wazimu. Walikuwa wanatuona like, you guys, you are just crazy. Okay, we were pushing on with those who believed in the idea. We were just pushing on. We got a number of subscribers in. Come 2020, that was basically in 2020. Like now, COVID came. By then is when guys started talking of Zoom. By then, hawako wanajua Zoom iko, hawako wanajua, majority walikuwa wanajua aspect of this aspect of whatever that you normally tend to use other than Zoom. So in this case, you'll find that when you are starting this, remember is a project that, yes, we have launched, and we weren't guaranteed, but we were somehow optimistic that the future will always tend to open, guys, and look at the guys will always kind of believe on such. So now after Corona, after COVID-19, we were hosting some colleges, by the way. Then in 2020, during the COVID time, we were hosting some colleges. Some colleges were using our resources to provide e-learning solution to their students, basically the aspect of Zoom. Some were putting their courses in the app and all the rest. But by then, remember, this is a project that is a software that has been developed. We were not guaranteed if it will pick, but we were optimistic. The same case here will also happen with data mining. This information that we are using, we weren't sure if this information basically will assist us to do what? Will assist us maybe to give us the accurate information that you're getting, or maybe to give us whatever that you want. The same case I've just asked that question, like if today I've invested in Safaricom, I'm not sure if at all we are going to do what you're going to earn the dividends as at the end of the day. So the whole bit of both in our day-to-day life activities and also when it comes to information technology, it's not like you are guaranteed that this thing will work. The other time, our company launched that application. Maybe I haven't shared with you. There's that application that we launched in it, World Melody, right? World Melody. You can get it of course on the Play Store. The whole concept of World Melody is simply like is a dating app, and not only a dating app per se, but it is an app whereby it can always connect guys if, of course, they have checked in. Say, for example, right now I've gone to Kempinski, and maybe also Lisa is in Kempinski. On World Melody, Lisa, she's also on World Melody. If you are within the same check-in area, this app will basically alert that, you know what, one of the person in the app is also around. So in this case, it will enable us, of course, if we are interested, to hook up. And in that case, we can always tend to create business. Yes, this is a concept that we've started. We've not launched it officially, but we are running some tests, which you guys can also assist Mwalimu to run the test on the same. The app is called World Melody. So you'll find that this is a concept that, yes, we have developed, but we are not sure basically if at all it will pick or if it will not pick. But we are optimistic that as at the end of the day, it's going to pick and people are going to adopt it, because we don't have such. Only the dating app that is very common is Tinder. Other than Tinder, we don't have any other dating app more so developed in Africa. So you'll find that such cases, such concepts, yes, you're having this, but we are not sure if it's going to do what it is going to pick. So the same case, coming back to this question of ours, where we were asked, look at this case, we were asked like, given right now, you have the definition of what data mining is. And this is a statement that you are given. We were asked, number one, read the statements below and answer the questions that follows. So you're asked, data mining relates to turning raw data into useful information. And number two, data mining using Boolean algorithm should guarantee a result. So in that process, you're told which of the following choices apply. Number two, the two statements are true. Only the first statement is true. Only the second statement is true. None of the statement is true. So maybe if I was to ask this question, what will you select, Elizabeth, from now the knowledge that you have?
The first one, number B. Only the first statement is true.
Correct. That is true. Only that statement is true, because number two, it can't be true because at times this algorithm can always not guarantee us results. Like what happened with Google just like, was it 1.5 weeks ago? The Google, basically they were kind of testing the OpenAI, right? And this OpenAI, remember, like it was just a typo. This typo led the company to lose almost $125 billion in stock, simply because of a typo. Yes, the bad thing that they were doing, they were running a pilot in public. They were running a pilot in public. Recall, like OpenAI actually is revolutionizing everything. I know and I believe that things will always, anything that is not relating to AI in future, you'll find that it will be relevant. So because ChatGPT, they came up with this concept and is working out very well. Also, these are the big boys, of course, in the industry. Also, Google were trying the same concept and they were doing this test publicly. They end up losing $125 billion in stock. It's not like the algorithm was not correct. The algorithm, everything was set in place, only that at times we can always not be guaranteed of the end results. So in this context, we find that the best choice here, it will be the definition of the data mining, which we are talking of. Data mining basically relates to turning raw data into useful information. That is the only item that we know is true. The second statement can't be true because you cannot always be guaranteed of the results. You can always not be guaranteed of the results. So that is also another question that basically you can answer in this paper that was tested. So you'll find that the whole concept of data models, and actually we are done with data models, by the way, in regard to of course CRISP. We are done with the data models. So these are the items that basically you only need to understand. You can always be asked of the advantages over the other, which I think I'll share if I hadn't shared. You can always be asked of the advantages of one of maybe advantages of data models, which I just mentioned it the other time. So this is what you need to understand on basically CRISP. So the next item that probably will also be looking at here, the next bit that we'll always be looking at here is maybe stages in, actually we are done with data concepts. The other item that you can also look at, but not now, basically is stages in data life cycle. Stages in data life cycle. Also, it will be, if you guys were told, if you've understood the first bit, this second bit, the stages in a data life cycle, it will be very easy, because here these are some of the things that will just be reasoning. The second stage will be very, very easy because we are done with data concepts actually. Conceptual, logical, and physical data models, you're done with that. So the next bit, it will be asked for us to understand the stages in data life cycle. And of course, once you're done with this, all these other things like big data analysis, I'll try as much as possible to give you extra, not only relating to CASNIB as well. I'll try as much as possible to give you extra, because once you're done with this, these other things will just be kind of, I'll try on this. The only bit that I'm going to go practical is on Power BI and show SQL. So that is to say, probably next week, we can clear this bit here. And once we clear this theory part, the other things that will have remained, because we did financial management, is when with the same pace. We are in a very, very, very good trajectory. So this is what we should be having. Now, unless anyone has a question, guys, Molim will want to issue a very nice weekend so that you can allow another lecturer to enter in another class. So as I've said, like business data analytics is always very interesting. It's always very interesting. And if time will allow, after we are done with what you need to have to be ready for your exams, I'll try and go deeper into extra so that you guys, whenever you see Mwalimu being excited when he's talking about data analytics, this concept is always very, very, very interesting. Always, when I'm talking of interesting, is basically interesting. And of course, it would be interesting, of course, if you're having that zeal also to basically want to know more and more about data analytics. Yeah, so that's it. Next time also we'll be looking at some of the questions in our past paper, the way we've done today. And I know by the time we are through the theory bit, you can sit down with your colleagues and friends and always try to give them that information Yeah. So you guys have a nice weekend, unless anyone has a question. Great. See you then.